So I want to introduce you guys. Thank you for joining us. And there will be more people, as like I said, coming through. But I want to introduce you to Brian. Brian, thank you so much for coming to do the Zoom webinar with us. But we've known Brian, Matt and I have known Brian for quite a bit now, and he's been in property management in this industry since 2001. Am I right, Brian?
Yeah, been a long time.
Right, and we had the pleasure of working with him as board of directors of his I'm going to say it's his board. It's the Northern Worcester County Landlord Association that he's the president of, and he's also involved in a lot of. You're part of the Mass Landlords, right? Worcester Property Associations. What else are you involved in?
There's a long laundry list. Worcester Property Owners Association, MassLandlords.net. Greater Lowell Landlord Association, Thumbtack Network, Northern Worcester County Landlord Association, Belaire Property Management, BHB Group. I'm forgetting a few, but I think you get the idea. It's my first day.
He's extremely knowledgeable. We've learned a lot from him. So thank you, Brian, again for joining. Matt, can you? I think there's a big echo. Do you guys hear the echo?
Yes.
It's a delay. It's a delay. That's all.
Right.
It's an echo. They're in the same house.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Much better? All right. So, Brian.
Yeah.
Come take it away. While
I'll talk a little bit here, let people know what it is that we're trying to achieve today. And then I've got a PowerPoint presentation. I got it down to about 432 slides. So it should go through pretty quickly here. I'll try to keep it at a high level. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to set up my chat. Okay, I want to do this. I'll just have this over here. I cannot hear you.
Well, I'll also manage your chats, Brian, so I'll read it so that you can just stay focused and I'll chime in for you.
Sure, sure. Yeah, and just optimizing my screen real estate here. Real estate is in everything, right? There, so now I'll be able to see everything that's going on the Zoom meeting, and then I'll be able to do the presentation. So I want to thank Matt for coming up with such a clever name, Reviving Your Rental Health. I did have a lot of fun with that, the presentation. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get started. I'll walk you through. I've got it broken down into a couple different chunks. First, I want to talk about currently what's going on and some of the fears that people have. Then how this is an opportunity, and then some of the things that just makes real estate one of the best rental classes there is for investments, and then where you can get more help and what you might be able to do at the end of all this. So let's get started here. I'm going to do the share screen function now. I'll turn on the presentation, and then I'll just walk through the presentation. And what I'm going to ask you to do is, if you do have any questions, anybody who's viewing us today, just put your questions in the chat, and if I can, I'll address them as I go. But Yunri, I think you're going to mute everyone as we go.
Absolutely. We'll mute and then ask your questions away, and I'll make sure your questions get answered, guys.
Sure. And if for any reason we're in mute mode and you do have a question, just put it in the chat and we'll be able to address it as soon as we can.
So I have to take that back, Brian. I actually changed you and converted you as a host. So now you have the power to mute everyone and not myself. So if you go into the...
Take it back, yeah.
I can't take it back because I can reclaim it. Hold on one second.
Yeah,
got it.
Yeah, that's fine with me. If you could mute everyone except... No, I was
You're on, Brian.
All right, so I'm going to do the share screen here, and we'll bring you over to my other screen. We'll share that. Okay, did it work? What are you seeing? Are you seeing the presentation yet? Yunri, are you seeing the presentation?
You are good. Yes, we can finally see the presentation.
So you can see the blue brain?
Yes.
Okay, let's get started. So I want to welcome you all here, and of course I want to thank Matt and Yun Ree for the opportunity to do this through the Keller Williams Merrimack Valley office. Longtime friends, and I really appreciate the opportunity to do this presentation for you today. Let's get started. So first, why am I here? I'm the Regional Property Manager of Belaire Property Management, President of the NWCLA, member of the Worcester Property Owner Association. My wife and I currently own about 60 rental apartment units in central Massachusetts. Currently through Belaire Property Management, we're managing over 200 rental units, and I've been guest speaker and host of several different presentations throughout the past 19 years. And thank you again for this opportunity. So, of course, we do have a disclaimer. I'll just jump to the chase. All different types of investing carries the risk of losing some or all of your capital funds you have invested, so please invest wisely. I am not an attorney. I don't play one on TV, and I'm not giving you legal or investing advice. I'm just speaking from past experience that we've done in our market and what we've been able to do that we found that is successful. So why are we here? COVID-19 is scaring the bejeebies out of everyone. It's disrupting our economy. It's disrupting our rental markets. Nobody really knows what's going to happen, and I am not going to profess that I am any type of expert in medical or COVID-19 or anything that's going on. But one thing I don't, we'll get to that in a second. I have this nice quote that I want to get started with. It ain't so much the things that people don't know that makes trouble in this world as it is the things that people know that just ain't so. That's from Mark Twain. And basically what it's saying is there's a lot of hype. There's a lot of fear out there. And fear for me is an acronym of feeding every alternate reality. So I don't want to be doing that. I want to stay in a positive light in all this. In every terrible phase of the market that's ever been, there has been an opportunity. So let's dig in. So feeding into the unknown, not knowing the truth. Like I said, I'm not a medical doctor. I don't know anything about COVID-19 other than it's dangerous and we need to be careful. Having a negative attitude at any point in your investing career can take you out of the game. And giving up and not trying. There's loads of investors out there, people, realtor, you have clients who sit on the fence and out of fear, they just don't move forward. So the best thing I can say is just jump in there and get started, and we can figure it out as we go. Not all the resources are reliable. I'm trying not to get my news from memes on Facebook. Snopes is a good place to check things out to see if it's for real. You'll see later in this presentation that we're actually encouraging people to go to the government websites to get firsthand information, not secondhand or thirdhand, or my Uncle Joe said this is what's going on. So verify those sources of information. There's too many different opinions out there floating around, and at any given conversation, don't be lured by the next shiny objects of, oh, I heard this today, or oh, I heard that today. Be on the websites that have the correct information and be informed. The alternate, we can all imagine the worst case scenarios. Negative assumptions are not going to help anyone. Expecting bad things to happen all the time, you've got to be optimistic. We are going to get through this. Yes, it's something that's never happened before, but we can point back in history to so many other times in the real estate market where things like that have quote unquote never happened before. And now here we are. And I'll be commenting on where I think we are in just a little bit. And then don't be fanning the flames of fear. There's one, how do I say this? And I know I'm being I know I'm being recorded here. So there is a property owner association that for the past couple of weeks, 3-4 times a week, I'm getting the emails And it's just all hyped up on how terrible it's going to be. And I've just stopped looking at those emails because, you know, I don't need to be feeding into my own head how terrible things are going to be, because that's just going to make it another obstacle to get over to actually get to a solution. And then the reality, here we are. We've got people on board who are wondering, should I buy property now? Should I sell my property now? What should I do? And then the big question, what if tenants can't pay rent? Well, I'll let you in on a little secret. As a landlord, for the 19 plus years I've been doing this, just about every month, not so much now because I've got operations and systems in place, but just about every landlord near the end of the month, 2 or 3 days before the rent is due, I'm sure they have that flash moment in their head where they ask themselves, gee, I wonder if I'm going to get my rents this month. So even without COVID-19, that's part of being in a rental investment property. So just don't get it blown out of proportion here. So here we are. People are probably wondering, you know, but I want to invest in real estate. I've seen that the market's good, rents are high. So, you know, what do we do? Should I get into something now? Should I wait to see what happens? Well, I'll give you my opinion on that. But again, I'm not an expert on what's going on today, but I do have a few years of rental experience. So hopefully that can shed some light. So for decades, as I've been an investor, I've met hundreds of landlords, and there's one question I always ask landlords. You know, I want to know if there's that one thing that you could have done differently as a real estate investor when you got started. What's the one thing you would have done different? And 99.99% of the time, I get the exact same answer from every real estate investor I ask that question. They wish they had started sooner. They wish they'd grown their portfolios way back when, not waited on the sidelines. And if they would have started sooner, done what they did, they'd be so much further ahead in the real estate game right now. So why even buy real estate at all in this type of market? There's so much fear going around. There's news. Who knows if it's the truth? So why should I even do this? Well, let's take a look at the real estate market before COVID-19. Maybe about 5, 6 weeks ago, it was just starting to leak out that there were some problems going on in China, and then it started to spread all over the planet. So where were we about 6 weeks, 2 months ago in our real estate market? Okay, what did that really look like? Well, for real estate investors, it was the best ever for real estate investors. We had the lowest unemployment numbers in a long time. The interest rates had been the lowest for lending as they had been in a long time. So you could get into a property and probably see better margins because your interest rates were lower. We've seen the highest rents we've seen in probably the past 10 or 15 years. And we've been watching the trends in Rentometer. Every month we go in, and now we have in a lot of the markets that we're watching a T12, a trailing 12. So we can watch in any market that we've been tracking, what are the 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms? Where are the rents going? Where are the rates going? And there's a few anomalies that we've seen, but for the most part, we've seen a steady uptick of 6 to possibly 8% increase in rents over the past few years. So that's a pretty good indicator of this would be a good time to own property. And then more than ever, and maybe it's our operations, maybe it's our systems, maybe it's our marketing, but we're able to capture more renters looking for good quality units than ever. So that's where we were before COVID-19. So in just a few short weeks, what has the market done and what are we looking at now? Well, this, I think, is going to be a ripple. Now, is it going to be a long ripple? Is it going to be a short ripple? Are we going to jump back into the market when we get through this, pig in the snake curve, when we start seeing less cases, less deaths, when vaccines come out in September, what's that going to look like? Are we all going to be back to work? Someone says they cannot hear me. You might want to check your video. I
They
don't know.
can hear you now.
Yeah, is that better?
Yep, they can hear you. Yes.
Okay, perfect. The website, not sure which website they were looking at. Oh, Rentometer, was that the website for checking rents? Yeah, rentometer.com. So here we are. Again, I don't know if this is going to be a short ripple, a more extended wave. Is it going to be a little low tide for a while? Could it last weeks? Could it last months? Could it be 6 months? I don't know. And anybody who is saying, oh, this is what it's going to be and this is exactly what's going to happen, well, I don't know if I would drink that Kool-Aid because nobody really knows at this point. But I do know that after every tragic event that's ever happened, real estate has rebounded. So there are still a lot of people able to go to work. Yes, there's some industries who have been crushed by all this, the food service industries, entertainment industries, social gatherings, bars, restaurants, theaters, they've been hit, okay? If you've rented to a bunch of nurses, police officers, or firemen, you're probably not that worried because right now they're getting slammed. And even us, I can tell you for the last 4 weeks out, we worked 80 hours, then just over 80 hours. The week after that was 75 hours. The week up to this presentation, last week, Holy Week, I worked 95 hours. So there's no shortage. I do consider myself a first responder. So what else is going to happen? A lot of people are still working. The stimulus packages are starting to roll out. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, we weren't really sure what was going to happen. I think March 27th, the CARES Act was signed into law. So that's starting to slowly trickle out. And this can absolutely be a buying opportunity. Like I wouldn't want to take advantage of people's fear, but there are some people who possibly didn't buy real estate using all the metrics that they should have, and we'll talk about those a little bit, and they may be in trouble. I think some of your C+, C-, maybe D properties, they might be in trouble because those types of properties in those types of neighborhoods with those types of renters may be seeing some more hardship. But again, stimulus packages are coming, so we don't really know. So what does this opportunity look like? Well, if there is a dip in the market, which there has to be a dip in the market, okay? There's just things going on in the economy right now. There's got to be a dip. If you are going to jump in and become a real estate investor now, I would definitely target a better building class. I would be looking at your B+, possibly even A-. And I'm not going to go into a whole market study on this call because we do have a lot of material to cover. But I would look at better properties and then buy in a better location. Where? Now I have future there in the parentheses, and there's a lot of research you can do. I've got a lot of blog posts on studying markets. How can you tell? And you'll have an opportunity to get some of that information later. But is the market in a given area going up, going down? Is it gentrifying from a C to a B? Is it going from a B to a C? So you should really kind of do your homework, know your market better than anybody else. And you really want to be, after the first 20 to 30% of people who have bought into an emerging market, you want to be jumping right in behind them all the way up to the 70%. And then you might want to maybe tap the brakes or look for a different market. Now, because you're buying in a building in a better location, you're buying a better property, you're absolutely going to be able to attract better residents and get higher rents. And again, we are not seeing a shortage of good renters. With all the technology and operations we've been putting into place, we're actually attracting a much better clientele. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. So this past month, what did we see happen? Well, in April, nobody knew what was going to happen. So we've been tracking, and we've only seen out of our 200 plus units, 3% of our renters actually contacted us to let us know that they were going to have some issues paying their rent. So that was 6 people. And of those 6 people, 2 of them have already paid. 1 of them is still in hardship. The other 3, we have worked out payment plans, and we've already received partial rents. So this number right now is maybe down to about 1 to 1.75 of our incoming rents that we've seen affected in the April rent collection. Now, we've got a couple weeks here before May hits, but a lot of these stimulus packages are rolling out. Unemployment is starting to roll out. The CARES Act is starting to roll out. There's a lot of other programs that are starting to hit the market. So I don't know what's going to happen in May. I think it's all going to be based on the timing of from where we are now to what happens in the next couple of weeks. And then this just happened the other day. This is really exciting. If you have an IRA account that hasn't been hit or tanked under by the recent turmoil in the stock market, they have just released a law that you could take up to $100,000 out of your IRA account. You need to put it back within 3 years, but oh my, what a great time to be able to access up to $100,000 out of your IRA if you're sitting on one and invest it into real estate. I don't know all the specifics on this, but I know it just happened. And actually one of our investors within the last 48 hours just pulled $100,000 out of their IRA account. So we're really excited to see what's going to happen there. And again, it gives you the leverage to buy. And again, we're seeing even more renters looking for good quality units. So if you're just starting out, or if you already have your operations worked out, this is a great time to build if you're starting, or rebuild your operations. Now, my office manager, Stacy, didn't want me to tell you about all this, but this is some really great stuff. I mean, we've looked at our operations the past couple of weeks, and we have just blown out our virtual tours. Matt, you've been doing a great job at some of our properties for those as well. But now it's everything's online. People don't want to leave their homes. And if we have an occupied unit that's going to go up for rent, our renters, our residents don't want to let people into their homes. So we've taken the opportunity to work with them, masks, gloves, Clorox wipes, a whole protocol for entering their domain, their home. And we shoot a video, we put that on YouTube, we put it on our website. So now your viewing renters, your people in the market who are candidates to rent your units can now go right online, do a virtual tour, see the living space, and decide before they even fill out a rental application if that's going to be an apartment that suits their needs. And then using our software that we have, we use Appfolio actually. Our applications are online, our leases are online, our virtual tours are online, and we can use lock boxes once all the deposits have been made and set up for first, last, and security. So yeah, we could do a virtual chat or talk to them. What is it? The phone there, iPhone, iChat, or I can't think of what it's called. I'm an old guy using technology, but there's ways to talk to people, right? What is it? I can't think of what it is. I'll keep moving. So yeah, all this stuff is available. And if you've just decided, hey, I want to throw my hat in the ring and buy my first property, what an awesome time to develop all your systems now. So down the road, you won't be broad swiped by this type of an event happening to the economy. And then the last bullet here, there's so many things that have shut down. There's actually more contractors looking for work. So now's a great time to negotiate the costs on those rehabs. We had a porch project at one of our properties. We had bids that ranged all the way from $9,000 to $32,000. Well, we went somewhere in the middle, and I think we took the bid for about $12,000. But they were thrilled that we could keep them busy. They're responsive to us. We're giving them work. We've got more work lined up for them. So what a great time. I mean, that's always one of the key issues, COVID-19 or not. How do I get good contractors? Right now, there's been a lot of the great contractors have been super busy, and now they're looking for work. So this is your opportunity. So we already mentioned on CNBC this morning, the Fed has just injected a huge, massive amount of capital into the market. So it's going to take a little while for it to trickle down to hometown USA, Main Street, but it's coming. It's there, okay? And real estate is still, from my years of experience, one of the best investment classes out there. The rate of returns, the returns are investments. I mean, unless you're a guru trading futures or options, my son's pretty good at that, but unless you really know what you're doing there, real estate is a slow moving train. You can watch the market, know when to jump on the train, know when to get off the train, and not get hit by the train. So, and the returns are great, okay? Now, one thing that's really great about real estate, all this capital that's being flooded into the market right now, chances are we may see a little bit of a recession, and we'll see inflation. Well, if you're a real estate owner, that's okay, because in an inflation time, the values of your property go up with everything else. So you bought it at a price, your payment, your mortgage is going to stay the same price, but the value of your property is going to go up. So actually you're spreading equity. Owning real estate, especially investment real estate, is one of the best hedges for inflation. So those are some of the ideas. Are there any other good ideas why you might even consider investing in real estate? Well, I could only think of a few. So here's 18 different strategies that we've used over the past 20 years. It's a wealth building strategy. There's ways to leverage so many different ways that you can leverage one property into multiple properties. The economy of scale, if you have several properties, hiring one property manager or one plumber to do that whole area is great. Cash flow is king. Many bar fights have been had between the two sides of investors thinking cash flow is the way to go or appreciation is the way to go. But it all depends. If you had 12 different investors in the room and asked them what their investment strategy was, you'd probably get 13 different answers. Leverage, of course, you can put a down payment of 10, 15, 20% down. There's different ways to do that. You could put 20% down to get 80% more of an asset. I mean, I don't know any other investment class that'll do that. Appreciation, of course. The tax benefits are numerous. Depreciation, you can, if it's commercial or residential, you get a good CPA who knows what they're doing. They'll put you on that depreciation schedule for 27 and a half years. So whether it's CapEx, capital improvements like roofs, or if it's repairs, minor stuff that you can take for that year, all this works. Again, I mentioned the hedge against inflation, financial freedom, and the freedom of time. Wouldn't it be great to know that your investments have replaced your income? Well, it takes time. This real estate is not get rich quick, but it is a slow-term, steady, tortoise and hare approach. Now, the tenants pay down your mortgage. Everybody always asks, well, if I buy this property, how am I going to pay the mortgage? Well, if you buy right and you look at your numbers and know what you're doing, you can provide good quality, decent, affordable housing for your residents, and in turn, they can pay down your mortgage reduce your debt, increase your equity, and provide cash flow for you and your family. The business deductions, I mean, if you can see the setup I have here, the screens, the lights, the microphones, the cameras, this is all stuff that I've been able to purchase after tax dollars because I'm using it for business. You can always scale up to bigger deals. There's 1031 exchanges. You can refinance, take that cash tax-free and buy another property. That's something people don't realize. When you refinance a property and suck cash out of the original mortgage, that cash that you get out of the mortgage is not taxable. That's not considered income. So you can use that to reinvest, and that's a great leverage. So real estate, you get to help other families, give them a home, you get to help your family. The tax-free finance, we talked about that. The equity build-up, we talked about that. Asset diversification. You own real estate, you own stocks, you own bonds, you could do notes. There's so many different other ways. Just attend a RIA, the Real Estate Investor Association, and you'll talk to at least 7 different people with 7 different strategies. And there's so many different ways to play real estate as a game. And you find out what's best for you. And then obviously, if you do this right, you plan it out long term, it's a vehicle and an investment vehicle that can take care of you and your family for years to come. Not seeing, oh, FaceTime. Thank you. That's what it's called. Thanks, Mike. Not seeing any questions, but feel free if you want to type one in, and I'll just keep going. I do love to talk. Okay, so what happens? I buy this property and my tenants lose their jobs and can't pay rent. Well, you have to have a plan. So the 5 things to do, and this is stuff that we've done this past month. You know, we rolled out all kinds of stuff, but we only had to use it for 3% of our market. So we thought we were going to be a lot busier putting out fires, but it wasn't that bad. So let's walk through a strategy. If you're an investment owner now and you're worried about what's going to happen in May, or maybe you're dealing with some of your residents right now trying to come up with a plan, here's some of the stuff that we're working on. So the 5 things. First, have a plan. If you've bought an investment property, you shouldn't have strapped yourself out to where you can't afford to put food on your own table if the rent doesn't come in. You should have bought with cash reserves. You'll hear this on the podcasts all the time. The smart investors have cash reserves. Usually, typically 3 to 6 months of reserves is a great idea, and don't over leverage your properties. When you refinance and take cash out, you still want to make sure you've left enough meat on the bone in your ratio. I think 30-60 is a good ratio. That's good right now. You don't want to leverage out to have 10% down payment and 90% mortgage, because that's too tight. That's just too tight. If things go wrong, you know, you may see more cash flow at that, but your payments are going to be higher. So you just don't over leverage. Try to do this smart. And then second, have empathy. My pastor, I heard on a virtual sermon, he said, we're all in the same storm, but we're definitely not all in the same boat. And I get that. You know, some of our renters, especially if they're on disability, or, you know, I strike that, not disability, but if they're paycheck to paycheck, you know, they're in a raft or maybe on a life preserver or maybe in a kayak, and, you know, one wave could tip them over. Whereas if you're an investor and you have several properties and you've diversified your investments, you're in a bigger boat. So yeah, we're all in the same storm, but we're not all in the same boat. So have some empathy for those people who are struggling. You know, do the best you can. I mean, we're Americans. I mean, we're entering America 2.0 after this whole virus. I don't know what it's going to look like, but be understanding, be kind, be sympathetic, communicate quickly. Months, or actually weeks before last month's rent was due, we were communicating. We sent a letter to all of our residents. We sent them emails. We let them know of programs that were out there. We wanted to be part of the solution. You know, I didn't want to be sitting back in fear saying, what if I don't get rent? And then what am I going to do now, or not know? Or, you know, that's the quickest way to get an ulcer. So just have a communication. This is a people relationship business. And I cannot tell you how many of our residents have thanked us for being forthwith, giving them information so they could plan on how to take care of their families. A couple of them needed the help, but the ones that didn't really appreciated that we were out there out front trying to give them some answers and solutions. And then when we do have those difficult conversations, we have to let the residents know the rent is still due. This is where I'm warning or advising people not to feed into the fear. You'll see these advocate groups saying, oh, the landlord doesn't have to pay the mortgage, so we shouldn't have to pay the rent. Well, that's not exactly true. The forbearance, the deferments that some of the landlords will talk about in a minute, you might be able to defer your payments or do forbearance for a few months, but you still owe that mortgage. It's not being forgiven. They're just tacking it on to the end of your term with more interest. So they're giving you a life raft to get through this storm right now, but you're going to pay for it at the end. So you need to be fair but firm. You need to let the residents know that the landlord is not getting forgiveness on their mortgage. So the rent is due, and it's hard to get back from behind. So you want to be willing to work with your residents. So number 4 is explain the options. We've definitely been waiving any late fees, any bounce check fees, anything like that. We're trying to help people out. Things are scary out there right now. We will we'll accept partial payments. If somebody's rent is $1,200, they can only pay us $800, great. We'll say the $800, we're not going to issue the notice, or if we did have to issue the notice, we'll work with them, we'll come up with a plan. We'll accept credit cards. Our software allows us to do that. There's that 3% or 2.98% fee. We're waiving those fees. This will allow people to stay in their homes, have a peace of mind, but then we do need to restructure how they're going to pay off that balance or when their payments are going to be due. Right now, at the first of the month, that's typically when we like to receive rents. Some people now, when their unemployment gets kicked in, it might be every week. So we'll restructure that. I mean, what does this look like? What can you do? What's comfortable for you? You have to be able to feed your family. You have to be able to take care of things at home. This is all stuff that still needs to happen. We'll work with them. If you need to pay us a portion every week or every 2 weeks, we'll work that out. And then the 5th bullet, and this is as a last resort, only in an emergency, we will split up and do a rent deferral or a forbearance on a month's rent. If they're in the restaurant industry or bartender industry or something like that, and they live off tips, they're not getting paid. They're worried about how they're going to feed their family. They're worried about how they're going to keep the lights on. So as a last resort, we will do a forbearance where, and this is after a discussion, we'll try to do everything else we can to help them first, because this is an emergency. But if we were to do a forbearance, we would take that month's rent, possibly divide it up over 10 or 12 months and say, okay, so if your rent was $1,000 and we're going to divide it by 10, then your rent moving forward would be $1,100. We'll forgive this month. Well, we're not forgiving it, we're deferring it or doing a forbearance. So you're going to have to make up the balance and the difference over the next 10 to 12 months. And we're only going to let them do this twice within a 12-month period, because we know from decades of experience doing this, when somebody hits 2 or 3 months behind, there's no way of coming back from that. It's really, okay, let's do what we can do. We'll help you move if we have to do that, but we're not going to be able to allow you to live there for months on end without being able to pay rent. Now, hopefully, with the programs coming out, the assistance, the CARES Act coming out, unemployment, the PPP for payroll protection plan, all this stuff is finally starting to trickle down. Maybe it'll stop the bleeding, but we have to have a plan in place. So again, it's have a plan, have empathy for the people in a tougher spot than you. You have to have the difficult conversation to let them know that rent is still due. And you need to explain the options and then the rent deferral. And somebody's on there, Yun, could you see, you might be able to mute them out. Okay, so those are the 5 points of the plan, and then try to be part of the solution. Again, don't feed into the negative fear. What can you do? How can you help? How can you make a difference? Try to be a part of that, okay? In the long term, those will be the businesses that people will remember down the road. So if I can't collect rent, how am I going to pay my mortgage? Good question, okay? Well, again, I'd say help people first. So there's 3 buckets of people who are being affected by this. These are the homeowners who don't have anything to do with investment property, but they're trying to pay their primary residence, their mortgage. And then the renters who, with their job or whatever their income is, are actually helping you pay down your mortgage for your real estate investment property. And then the landlords who have 1, 2, 3, or several mortgages that they're worried about, how are they going to pay those? So for us here at Belaire Property Management, we're in all 3 of these buckets. So when we started to put together our assistance white papers for our landlords and our residents, it was a little self-serving that we were looking for answers for ourselves as well. So we're homeowners. My wife and I, we own a home. We're renters. I'm here in our commercial space for our office right now. And yeah, we're renters. We have a landlord, and we're also landlords. We have mortgages we need to pay as well. So what does this all look like? Well, for homeowners, some of the solutions out there, you should be contacting your bank mortgage immediately and see if you can do a forbearance. On some of our mortgages, we've been able to do a 6-month forbearance, some of them a 3-month forbearance, and that's going to save us thousands of dollars a month to get through this. Yeah, we're going to pay the interest, we're going to pay a little bit more at the end of it, but we're going to get through it, and that's what's important. Right now, they've dropped the interest rates to pretty much zero, zero between banks, but with the different lenders, if you're looking at local credit unions, you probably get a great deal there. You can refinance your mortgage to get lower payments, and then look at your budget. What is some stuff that you're spending on that you could probably cut right now? Do you need that Netflix account right now? Maybe not. Reading a good book or getting online and studying your market, looking for real estate, absolutely be reading books on real estate. Where can you cut expenses, okay? I know none of us are going out to eat right now, so that's definitely saving money. I've seen in our mileage reports, we're at like half of where we would be normally because we're shut in as well. So there are areas where you can save money. For the renters, if you're their landlord, if you're their property manager, keep calm. Manage the property, work with your residents, communicate with them, let them know that you're there to help. And we reviewed in the last set of slides to look at creative rent financing options. Work with them, okay? I mean, this is tough, and it's going to be tougher for some more, some than others. Will the PowerPoint presentation be available? Probably, yeah. I'll see if I can set that up and get it to Matt and Yun-Ri. Yeah, we'll see if we can do that. So let's keep going. For landlords, a few more tools. Work with your reserves. If you've got reserves, if you bought right, you should be able to weather the next couple of months. But use all the tools that you have. Use your reserves, try not to just make that the only thing you do. Use as many tools as you can. Do the creative rent financing operations. Again, you should be on the phone with your lenders, your mortgage. See if you can get a forbearance. Put off some of your mortgage payments, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months. What does that look like? That could save you $6, $7, $8, $10,000 for a couple of properties. It could be tens of thousands of dollars if you're a larger investor. So you want to make that phone call. And then again, while you're talking to them, see if there's an option to refinance for lower payments. And again, cut all your unnecessary expenses as well. So all this sounds great. But how can I get more information? Well, I did mention at the beginning of this presentation, you should absolutely be going to the government websites, the CDC, the Small Business Administration website. You can get your small business loan there. We applied for ours as soon as it was available. We have a couple different businesses, so we have a couple different applications out there. We're working with our payroll protection plan. I want to thank Yun-Ri. She let us know about that, and we've been sharing that with our clientele and our landlords. So shout out to Yun-Ri on that. But let's look at some of the other stuff, okay? So some of the things that we have that we've been doing. We consider ourselves first responders in all of this. So before, weeks before the April rent was due, we put together as much information as we could, not from Facebook, not from Twitter, not from News Here, anything like that, but we went directly to the government websites that are handling all this, the CDC, SBA, all those that we mentioned, the IRS. And we put together a white paper of all these resources. Now, the Massachusetts state legislator, none of the laws have actually been passed right now for the moratoriums, but they are looking at moratoriums on evictions. Now, housing court is closed, so they're not hearing any cases, but the housing court offices are still open. So you can do your 14-day notices. You can do your 30-day notices. You can do your summary process all the way up to getting a court date. Now, if you do have a judgment, if you've got a writ of execution, none of the movers are working. So you may have your writ, but you can't move on it yet. So in that assistance white paper, we got that out to our landlords way before the rents were due. So possibly they could come up with some strategies just in case. We were expecting way worse than 3% of uncollectibles, but 3% was manageable, and then down to 1.75 or 1.5%. That's like normal business for a property manager. There's going to be people who pay late. There's going to be people who, for whatever reason, get a 14-day notice and make it up. So that's normal. Now, assistance for the residents, we put a lot of care into this, and we want to help these families. We're directing them to our website as well. Back in December, we launched our new website. I did not know at that time how critical that launch was today. But under our links page at our website, belaire.co, we've got housing assistance, food programs, food pantries, fuel assistance programs. If you have pets, things that you can find for pets, the health, that's where we put all the CDC and all the other things. Anything that we're finding for government resources now, we're throwing it all onto our website. We're over 70 links right now for different programs that we found to help our landlords, to help our renters, to help families. You don't even have to be one of our residents. This is information that's out there to help people. Joe for oil, right? All of that's out there. We're just trying to make it easier for people to get help. Now, for our landlords, these are little perks that I'm throwing in for our audience today. We do have free reports. I've got like 60 or 70 free reports that I've written over the 20 years of doing this. And every month or so, we send out a free report, some strategy, due diligence, screening tenants, prepping your rentals, all kinds of different stuff. So if you are interested, if you'd like to sign up, it's free. I'm not selling anything. I'm I'm not going to upsell you. I'm not going to ask for a subscription. I write a lot of articles, and I just want to share them with other landlords. Who's my best landlord client? Someone who's educated. So if I'm helping to educate them, they become one of my best clients. If I can help them to be successful, they make my job easier, their job's easier, their business is more successful. So if you're interested, it's free. Belaire.co/free. You'll see a little video of me. I walk you through how to sign it all up. In your first report, even if you don't want to sign up, you can go there and get our free report on screening tenants. Now, the cookbook. This is something that we've rolled out over the last week, but I wanted to share it as an idea. So we know that some of our residents are going to have a hard time. We developed a program. We've been watching their feeds. We've been watching their Instagram. We're connected socially. We're able to connect and be together. And I can't tell you the spike in gorgeous food that I've seen on Instagram while everyone's been shut in. What else are you going to do? Unfortunately, you're going to eat a lot and gain weight. And then when this clears, we'll all be at the gym again. But I've seen so many beautiful food being prepared. So I thought, well, how can I use this to help families? So we developed a contest, and it's a cookbook. If you cook something, take a picture of it, put it on Instagram, you put in the hashtag Belaire Property Cookbook, you end up on a page for the hashtags. And if you get the most votes that month, we knock $50 off your rent. We're trying to help. And we're developing this really cool cookbook that we can share with our residents. We can use it in our marketing. If you want to rent from us, hey, here's the residential community you're being a part of. And we're just trying to help. That's it. You know, we get nothing out of this, but the satisfaction of knowing that we're helping people. I mean, they're going to cook anyways. They're going to eat anyways. If we can, you know, help them do something, keep their mind off of all the bad things going on, and save them some money on their rent, why not? Okay. So some of those free reports, here's some of them. That's a case study we did on a 12 unit we had to turn around. That one's really interesting. That's the due diligence report, what you should look for when you're doing a background on a property. I suggest to landlords, before you even go to the property, go through the checklist in that due diligence list. And then some of the other reports we have. And then there's the report for the residents. That's the white paper. It's 10 pages long. And then there's the white paper we put together for our landlords. That's 10 pages long. And even now, these we should be updating because more information, more policies, more programs are being rolled out. So we'll keep putting those on our website for now. We'll do the best we can help. And then I'm gonna shut off this screen and go back to the Q&A session. And I hope this was helpful. So just bear with me. I'm going to release the screen. We'll get back into Zoom. Stop share. Hey, Cindy, nice to see you. And are we back to reality here?
Regular screen.
All right, so we're back to Zoom. Great, welcome back, everybody.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for a great presentation, Brian. You know, one of the things that I hope you guys gathered, Matt and I had the luxury of learning a lot from him. And, you know, the biggest thing is education is power, right? Understanding and, you know, a lot of the little basics as to how we got into real estate. Yet at the end of the day, I hope that you guys see how he functions it as a business, in the sense of building those relationships, and think of all the little things that he's doing for his clients, right? Everything goes back to those tenants and your landlords. And, you know, I love the whole presentation where it's really, it's a win-win for everyone. And it goes about, how can we help people? Right? We got into the industry. I mean, we have a huge, huge job being landlords, and it's literally providing them safety.
Mark Cuban was interviewed on CNBC last night, and he was speculating on where he thought the market was going to be. He thinks it's going to take some time for us to get back to the new normal. He coined the phrase America 2.0. He thinks it's going to take some time before people are comfortable to go back out in public. So they're going to be at home. But one of the things he said that I think was really important, right now, 10 years from now, we're going to see 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 new businesses that the business model hasn't even been thought of yet.
Yes.
But because of this whole COVID-19 and everything, I alluded a little bit to it in the whole virtual existence. You know, now's a great time to be looking at your real estate business and saying, okay, so we took a little hit right now, but what could we be doing better? What could we be doing now? How could we do things a little differently? And years from now, those people who adapted and embraced innovations and change, those will be the companies that are still around. Hey, Bruce, nice to see you.
You're 100% right, Brian. I mean, it's so amazing. Everything's really changing before our eyes, you know, as we speak. One of the reasons why I'm kind of looking for something right now is, hold on one second. I know I took a picture of it. So Gary Keller, you know, the founder of Keller Williams, I was just on a leadership call with the entire leadership team right before I jumped on with you guys. And he quoted, I wanted to give you a quote on something he said. The real estate industry is going to change. You can either be the survivor or the architect. Sometimes it takes something to force us to think disruptively. You know, and I love your point. You're absolutely right. So along with a lot of businesses not being able to come back from this, there's a lot of new industries and a lot of new businesses that's going to emerge out of this.
Yeah.
Right. And I love that idea because even, you know, as a property manager, a landlord owning multiple properties, I don't have the answers now, but that's going to look different too. And the question goes as to how do you want it to look?
Yeah.
How does it provide more, you know, better service? You know, how can you become better in this industry?
Yeah. 2 months ago, I never heard of Zoom.
And now you can't stop on it, getting on.
Well, it's like my 4th or 5th Zoom meeting. I've been called to try to spread some positive. So,
Absolutely.
and I want to thank you so much for the opportunity to do this. I really hope that when this gets out there, I know that this recording will be available. I'll figure out a way to get you the PowerPoint slides, get all that to you as well. You're right on. Architect. I want to be the architect, not the survivor, because that survivor is just waiting for the next wave to hit them, where the architect's building like a flood wall. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, we got some questions. Now would be a great time. If you've got chat questions, let's get in there. So for the self-employment among us, make sure they apply for the EIDL, the PPP, even the unemployment insurance to help us all get by. Thanks, Bruce. Hey, Bruce, if you would like to, if you could type in a few of those websites and everyone else will see those, that would be great. And anybody else, if you have some questions, it's your time. So launch your chat, type some questions in there, and I'll stay on for a bit and see if I can be of assistance.
So as people are typing something in, let me just ask you, Brian, while we're kind of having a conversation about this, where do you see rent prices going?
Well, I don't think they're going to drop. Now, this would have to sustain for like 6 months to have a lot of people with vacancies and a lot of people possibly losing their properties. But again, the forbearance is going to be there. So yeah, they might do a moratorium on rent, but at the same time, they're going to do a moratorium on the foreclosure. Mm-hmm. So there's going to be some breathing room in between. So where is it going to go? Are the rents going to go down? I don't know, because the demand is still there. For good units, I don't think the demand is going to drop. For your C and D properties, I think those are the property owners who may have a bit rougher of a time, the survivors or maybe survivors. Those are the properties that I think you may see a drop in rent. Typically, I don't want to take those types of properties under management. They're much more management intensive. It's a lot harder to manage those types of properties. So in your good, stable properties, I don't see that the rent is going to drop. I mean, this thing would have to really blow up even worse than it is now. But the stimulus packages are coming out. The CARES Act is coming out. Unemployment is starting to ramp up. Billions, trillions of dollars have just been released. So it's going to take some time from the federal level to get down to the state level, to get down to the local level. It's going to take some time, but it is coming. So I don't really see that the rents are going to drop. May they stabilize for a bit? Absolutely. Like I said, we've been tracking Rent-O-Meter, and I'll type that in the chat as well so people can have that website. But we've been tracking the trailing 12, and we've seen a bump in rents from 2019 to the beginning of 2020. Just in the Fitchburg market, we saw a bump of $50 to $70 a month in rent. Now, what does that look like over a year or over 10 years? I mean, that's serious. So while we address some questions here, I'll put in that website.
So someone's asking, to explain, how do you identify A, B, or C properties?
Sure. There's two different ways to do this. One is the type of neighborhood. Okay, your A-class properties is stuff that's been built maybe within the last 10 to 20 years. Then your B properties could have been renovated, or it might be an older property that's been revitalized. Your C properties are in your blue-collar bread and butter neighborhoods, and then your D properties are the places where I would not send my wife to collect rent. Now, there's another way that I like to explain that because I'm a visual guy. I think this might make a little bit more sense. The type of shirt, okay, so A, B, C, D. Your A properties, those are going to be your young urban professionals. They're probably wearing a nice button collar shirt. They go to work, they're a professional. They have that type of a job. They're maybe one step away from home ownership. Those would be your A renters in your A properties. Your B renters would be your blue collar shirts. That's your bread and butter market. If you're buying in a blue collar market, a B type neighborhood, a B type property, dealing with B type residents, that's great. They're good, solid people, a lot of integrity. They have pride in their families, pride in their apartments. They're going to take care of your property. They're going to pay their rent to the best of their ability. So that's a really good market. And then your C properties are T-shirts. Okay, those are, you may find more people on rental assistance programs, subsidized housing, stuff like that. Those are going to be your C-type properties. So white shirts, blue shirts, T-shirts. And then your D properties, no shirts. They're drinking 40s out of a paper bag on the stoop. You don't want those types of properties. Those are your D properties. And, every market has A, B, C, and D properties. So you got to do your research. You got to look at your markets and see what's going on. So that was the A, B, C, D. What else we got in there?
Have you spoken to a landlord who has found out a tenant has COVID-19?
Yeah.
You have, okay.
Yeah.
How would you handle the situation if it happened to one of your properties? Are you informing all of the other tenants in the building? I've had some people ask me the same question.
Sure. In one of our properties in Gardner, two of our residents, it's a couple, they do have COVID. They got tested. They are in isolation. What are they calling it?
Quarantine?
Quarantine. They're quarantined for 2 weeks in their apartment. We had a nice conversation on the phone. They're fine. They're going to be okay. But they're really great people. They were making jokes about it and all that. And I just told them, look, if you need anything at all, we consider ourselves first responders. I mean, they've been able to order pizza. Family members will go grocery shopping for them. They'll leave the food outside the apartment door. People are there to help. And you know, I go back to being part of the solution. So this is going to run its course. They're going to be in quarantine for a couple of weeks, and then they're going to have the antibodies. They're going to be fine after that. They can go out. They need to be careful not to transmit the disease, but they're going to be fine after that. So,
But are you notifying other tenants in the same building?
well, there's, I can't think of the actual law, but I mean, if that person were a level 2 or level 3 sex offender, then I would have an obligation to protect the rest of that rental community. But again, I don't want to spread fear in the, what is it, the HEPA Act?
The privacy?
Not, yeah, the privacy of other people's medical records and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I do not believe it would be prudent, and I would be invading on their privacy to, you know, I just think of that as gossip. I mean, they're quarantined. They're not going to go interact with the other people. They're doing what they're supposed to do. We're all in a COVID-19 society. And we go to the grocery store, we wear gloves, we wear masks. There's no way of knowing. So they're not going to interact with the other residents. They're in quarantine, and there's little or no interaction with the other residents up to this point anyways. They kind of just stayed to themselves. I can't tell you how many properties we have where people don't know who their neighbors are unless there's a problem, and then they let us know, and then everybody knows who they are. So yeah, I don't think it would be prudent for me to be sharing people's private medical with other residents. I don't think that's the way to do that.
Another person asked, if I can find a trucking company, can I still do the eviction? They already did an execution order in hand.
The answer to that is maybe.
Who would be doing that?
Yeah. We had a writ of execution on one of our properties just before all this happened, and right up until the 11th hour, boom, they paid all their rent. So now the writ is useless. Fine, I'm fine. I'd rather have a useless writ than have to follow through. But now we had Mark Burrell on last Thursday, and it's hit or miss. The moving companies, if you can find a bonded moving company, great. But I don't know that the court is going to enforce that. They're probably going to give them a stay for another month or 2 months or 3 months. And let's think business here, right? Do you really want to be that business that goes before the courts and the judge and says, hey, I got my writ, and I know that we're in a terrible time right now, but I'm putting these people on the street. What's that judge going to think next time when things are back to the new normal and you're in front of them? They're going to say, oh, I remember you. You're that landlord who didn't have a car. Well, guess what? Karma is a you know what. So
Right.
I would work with those people. I mean, if it's an emergency, I mean, if they got a meth lab in there, or they're dealing drugs or prostitution or gambling or something else that falls into harm for the other residents, then that's an emergency, and I would follow through. Oh, that was from Cindy.
Bruce, I understand privacy and may not tell the other tenants, but we're not medical professionals and may not be bound by HIPAA.
Well, as a property manager, I tend to protect the privacy of my residents. You know, I don't think it would fare very well for us. You know, how do you get referrals? There's two ways you can get referrals. One is to do something bad, and they'll tell everybody. And then the other way is if you do something good, maybe they'll remember to give you a good word of referral. Again, I don't think it's my position to be sharing other people's medical situation. I mean, I don't know under fair housing and stuff like that, if there's a medical condition, like if someone's disabled, you're not supposed to discuss that with other tenants. So I don't know. I'm gonna steer clear of that. I mean, we're doing the best we can to help our residents. We're giving them information. I don't think that I would interfere with someone's invasion of privacy. I think that's a slippery slope. Hey, Deb, thanks for coming in. You got to jump on another call.
You're reading all of it, yep. And then Bruce wrote, I agree, just saying legally we're not likely bound. Any other questions?
You're going on with conscience.
You're conscious, yep.
Well,
Do the right thing for the people.
well, that's the thing. I mean, brand loyalty. What was it? I can't think of the company. It'll come to me. It's one of the stores my wife shops at. But a woman had bought a pair of boots for her husband, and before the boots, Neiman Marcus or something like that. I can't think of what it was. But her husband passed away, and then she got the boots. So she didn't want the boots, but she got on customer service with that company, and they didn't give her a hard time. They said, "We're so sorry for your loss. We will absolutely accept those boots back and give you a total refund." I mean, it's just boots, but the peace of mind that they gave her, just customer service, right? Customer service is not a department. It's how you treat people. It's your integrity. What do you do when nobody else is looking? I've had plenty of hard conversations at this table here in my office, and you just try to do the best you can to help people. It may work out, it may not work out, but at the end of the day, I sleep great knowing I did the best I could.
There's a non-COVID question. What are your thoughts on cost segregation?
Well, for me, that would depend on the investment, the size of the property, what are you renovating? I mean, if it's a single family house, does cost segregation make sense? Maybe, maybe not. If it's a 100-unit complex, yeah, that would probably be something to look at, because it's going to cost you some money to get that report. And for anyone who doesn't know what cost segregation is, you look at an investment and you look at your CapEx expenses, your repair expenses, and you try to get a better idea of what you're putting into that property, what it's costing you to renovate it, fix it up, stuff like that. And then with cost segregation, I think it's, 30 years for commercial, 27 and a half for residential. Typically, without cost segregation, if you've got a huge CapEx expense, you break that out through your depreciation as a tax benefit over the years. Cost segregation will allow you to take a larger chunk of that up front. So if your strategy is to buy a 100-unit complex, do cost segregation, and maybe you're in and out of that deal in 3 to 5 years, yeah, that might be a strategy to look at. If it's a single family house, what are you saving? Is it really worth it? I don't know. This is fun. Let's do a few more questions and then see where we end up. Yeah, so as we're waiting for the next question, again, if you want to check out our website, sign up for those free reports. The next one we're going to be sending out is the 2020 the tenant report. What are tenants looking for in rentals? What's important to them? Where do they stay? Where are the highest markets and all that? So that's the next report we've been waiting to send out. I actually wanted to wait till after this webinar to send it out, just in case there are a few more people interested. Pardon me, but I'm going to enjoy some of my coffee here. Bottoms up. Okay.
So Cindy asked that I need to send pest control to do ants issue. Can I still do it now because my concern is social distancing?
Sure. So ants primarily, Paul DiPasquale of Central Mass Pest Control, he does a lot of our stuff. But most of the time for ants, you can spray around the perimeter of the building, and that will take care of it if they're carpenter ants or stuff like that. Maybe not so much the carpenter ants, that might need a little bit more love. But if there's an actual issue in the building, then you should hire a licensed, insured pest control person. And I think the laws are they need to give them a week's notice. They have to give them a checklist of what they should be preparing, take the food out of the cabinets. It's a whole process. They don't just go in and spray for ants. And if you're going to do some self-help and go get your own ant spray and stuff like that, I would really suggest against that, because you don't want to put yourself in liability or harm's way. if you spray something and the baby toy goes there, and then terrible things could happen. So any type of pest control or stuff like that, I would absolutely get a licensed insured person to do that.
Awesome. So thank you so much, Brian. I think we're good for questions. However, I do want to leave it open. Hold on, I think there's one more, but I do want to leave it. My tenant cannot be home, right? Otherwise, they will be so close to each other, still social distancing concern.
Yeah, let me talk a little bit about that. We have a new protocol. We're still doing maintenance calls. Last week, 95 hours, and it just takes longer now. From the time one of our technicians pulls up in the service van, they park the truck. There's a protocol. Mask goes on. Gloves go on. Everybody has a tub of Clorox wipes. And from the moment they're sitting in the driver's seat, this is a process, and I'm going to get to when we enter the house. That's the end of that. But right at that point, they're wiping down the steering wheels, the gear shift, the windshield wiper, the door handle. They're securing the inside of that vehicle before they go outside of it. They're wiping down everything. Then with gloves on, and then they wipe down the handles, they shut the door. They wipe down whatever tools they have. They bring their tools with them. Now there's a protocol. As you approach the building, every surface you touch, from that service van to the workspace, wherever that work is going to happen, you have to wipe down with Clorox wipes, bleach, disinfectant, whatever. Every surface, the doorknobs. I open the doorknob, I go to the other side of the doorknob. I'm preparing my way into the building, and at the same way, I'm preparing my way out of the building, all the way to where I have to do the work. So say I have to repair a pull chain on a ceiling fan. We get all the way to that point where we're in the building. Our protocol right now is no other individuals may be allowed in the same room that service call is taking place in. So they'll have to go in the other room for a little bit. They'll have to go over there. We can still have a conversation. We can talk. They can look through the door, but they can't be in the room with us. This is for their safety and for our safety. My daughter-in-law just had a little baby girl, just over 2 weeks old now. So I am super careful. I'm here in our office right now. No one's been here for a month. And even still, my protocol, my mask is by the door, the Clorox wipes, blue gloves. So yeah, if you're taking the proper procedures and protocols to protect you, your family, your residents, and their family, you still have to do it as a case-by-case situation. Some people are scared, and you should not be forcing your way in.
100% agree. I think it's going to be a new process that's going to stick for a long time. It's not going away anytime soon. Somebody just asked, we bought a property recently and we had a lead inspection done before purchasing it. There is some lead in the apartment. How long can I wait to get the apartment de-leaded legally?
That's a great question. Is it vacant or is it occupied? Nia.
Occupied.
Occupied. Okay, so lead, it's a process. If you know there's lead, I'm expecting at this point, let me read it. We had a lead inspection done before purchasing it, and there is some lead in the apartment. Okay, same protocol. The lead protocol to do a lead abatement, I would be shocked if it's not very much in line with being safe for the protocol to protect from COVID, okay? Because the dust, the particles, there's a whole process to do lead abatement. So I would think you might actually be able to get a lead abatement crew in there, because I don't know that everyone's calling them up right now. They might be available. But I would probably call the Board of Health in the town where this property is and tell them your concerns. Now, I've found from years of doing this, working with the municipalities is way better than trying to tell them how to do their job. So if you reach out to them with a concern, you want to do this right, you want to make sure the building is safe, you also are concerned about code. So I would have a conversation with them. And if you don't want to call them directly, have a friend call. Say, hey, I know this landlord who has lead in their building. They're afraid to call you. What should they do? Okay. But yeah, have the conversation. And then after the lead abatement is done, the inspector comes back out. I think that might be the hard part, because if the inspector comes back out, are they going to take protocols? Because real estate is first responders, right? We're essential. So yeah, I think that lead remediation right now is essential because families' healths are involved. But I think you just need to be aware of protocols that may be in place. What else we got here?
I think we're good. I think there's no more questions.
Well, this was a lot of fun.
Well, Brian, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm obviously gonna 100% be inviting you back for another one. You know what I really think that would be very beneficial is, what was the title of the last one that I saw you do? The one at the Chelmsford place.
What was that? Big profits off small deals.
Yes, I
Yeah.
love that presentation. So I'll get you back on for that one as well. And I'm sure there'll be new updates from now till then.
The
So-
7 dwarfs, right?
Exactly, exactly. So thank you so much, Brian, for coming on and sharing all your wealth of information.
Okay. I will package up the PowerPoint and send that over to you.
Send that to me. I'll send the recording over to you as well.
Okay.
So you can have that. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Okay. Eat well and just take care of your families. Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.